Okay, I'm sorry to all of you who couldn't see the 100 subscriber special. So I will be posting this one for the rest of you guys. This will be part 2 to the hero pass. Part 2 to the villain pass will be uploaded later today. So, where we left off after I believe we left off after the USJ. When the next day, Aizawa coming in and announcing that there would be a sports festival in 2 weeks. So they'd be trained. So they'd need to be training for those 2 weeks. With Izumi going to go and train with Su, as she is training. While Su and her are training, they actually get closer and closer together. And as they get closer and closer together, you know what happens, ba bing ba boom, and there. So, after the 2 weeks of training, they get to the sports festival arena with them arriving and with the crowds cheering. They bring up the first year representative, which would be Izumi, with her stating that welcome to the sports festival, and this is going to be. I do hope you all enjoy us, and I do hope everybody who's participating does their best in the sports festival. As she said that, everybody, including the general studies students, begin to cheer with Monoma rolling his eyes, and they then go to the racing portion. Once they get there, once they get there and the race begins, Todoroki manages to freeze everybody, except for those who'd managed to get out in cannon, as Izumi uses her slime to dissolve the ice that's holding her and Su, as they both begin to run, with Izumi managing to catch up to Todoroki and Bakugo, and as they get to the robots, she turns her arm into a blade and slices the robots that were attacking her in half, as she then continues running forward, with everybody else beating the robots that they didn't cannon. And next is the canyon. Izumi, once she gets to the canyon, she basically stretches her arm out, both arms onto the ledge as she begins to stretch back and sends herself flying forward like a slingshot. As she lands on the other side and begins running. As she's running, Todoroki and Bakugo are keeping a steady distance, while as she reaches the minefield, and due to her not being able to feel any pain and being able to regenerate, she just runs through the minefield, causing a few of her limbs to disappear, mainly her arms and a bit of her head. But she manages to regenerate it, as she then makes it into the arena, arriving in first place. Then we get to the cavalry battle with Su, with her team mainly consisting of Su, Mei, and Tokuyami and her. As that happens, They managed to keep the headband away from people, mainly because Izumi had placed it like inside of her body through her head. And I'm just going to explain it a bit here. She can choose whether or not the stuff she puts in her body dissolves. So things like foods that she requires to live, those dissolve. And anything that she's going to place to keep it safe, she doesn't dissolve it. Okay, so as that happens, they manage to keep in first place, and they end up moving to the finals with Izumi fighting with Shinso. As when Shinso tries to brainwash her, she doesn't respond, as she then wraps her arm around Shinso like a lasso, as she throws Shinso out of the ring, beating him. Then the next match will be the matches go as they were in canon, and then we get to the fight between Izumi and Shoto. Shoto stating that he will beat her without using his, I think it was his left side. No, it was his right. It's his right. No, it's his left side. Yeah. With him saying that he won't beat her, he'll beat her without using his left side. As Shoto begins to fire ice off at her, she manages to cut some of it and dissolve most of it. With her being put on the back foot, as Todoroki sends a massive ice wall barrage at her as he's about to finish this fight. With her basically sending out a wave of her own water that she's absorbed into like a blade as it slices through the ice. As that happens, everybody is surprised that she could do that. With Izumi then getting up close and personal with Shoto and punching him right in the face, sending him out of the arena, with her winning that fight. And then finally, the final battle between Bakugo and Izumi, as Bakugo proclaims that he's going to be the one to win the sports festival. As Izumi then as midnight says go, Bakugo then charges towards her, as she knows that he's going to try to blow her up, as she manages to put up a wall which basically blocks the explosion, but the explosion does somewhat damage it, with a few chunks being sent across the arena, as it then begins to go back to her, as Bakugo begins to try and blow Izumi up. She's constantly avoiding these attacks, as one time Bakugo does get close enough to her where he does end up sending off an explosion, which does blow a hole in her stomach right there. As all it does, it doesn't really slow her down, but did surprise her a little bit. But she manages to regenerate it and hit Bakugo with a sledgehammer that she made from her slime, which sends Bakugo skidding across the arena, but doesn't knock him out. As Bakugo then goes to fire off his howitzer impact, as it does hit her, but to the point where only her where her lower half is. Yeah, all that, the upper half is just gone, as she begins to regenerate as slowly as her lower half begins to stand up, as she then gets her arm, as once she gets her arms back, she then punches Bakugo right in the gut, sending him out of the ring, with Izumi being proclaimed the victor. As that and once she wins, she then is given the her first place medal as the sports festival is over, and as Shigaraki is watching over the sports festival, he is currently writing down all the notes that he needs to be able to defeat Izumi. And that's where I'm going to leave it off. I do hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys in part 2 to the Villain Pass.